Hey, everybody, welcome to Cinema Gulp. I'm Ben.
And I'm John, and this is our 2022 cinema wrap up.
Well, John, what'd you think as a whole? 2022, maybe a little better than 2021, maybe a little better than 2020.
I think so, yeah.
More stuff.
I mean, this is I know I don't think we've done a video on our favorites of the year for the last 2 years. I don't even remember if we did it in 2019.
Yeah, 19 was the last one we did.
I honestly, the stuff that I got a chance to see in the last 2 years, there were very few that I would say, oh, that's truly what I call best picture quality, and therefore I don't need to spend time talking about them. This year has a handful of movies that I feel that way, that I left the theater excited to share with people, excited to get back into the theater and see a second time. That's what I call best picture quality movies usually. And so I'm glad we've got actually not just one or two, we've got a handful of good ones this year.
Yeah.
So it's a year worth looking back and talking about how great some of these movies were.
I feel the exact same way. A lot more this year that made me want to do this with you. And I mean, it's always fun to do shows with you, but yeah, to have actually movies to talk about. 2020, I didn't have any movies to talk about. 2021, I had a few. I did that short little video, but this year, a lot more quality stuff, more fun in the theater. So let's get to it. So for people watching our show for the first time, welcome. Please like and subscribe, leave some comments, tell us what your favorite in these categories are. We'll start off, John, with our favorite screenplays.
Well, one that I definitely think stood out for me was a screenwriter who always turns in, excellent work, and the screenplay is always one of the standouts from his work. Martin McDonagh's film, Banshees of Inisherin. If I got that name right, I don't know. I always
Banshees of Inisherin. Yeah.
And then it's like, I don't know, Inisherin something. But yeah, great movie. Just lives up to everything you expect from Martin McDonagh. Just great characters come to life on the screen, and an interesting story. It's certainly, I think everything that he's done is not your typical kind of story. It's always got twists and turns you could never expect. Goes in directions that no other filmmaker really attempts to sometimes. So I just loved it on the level that all of his work always has shined and just has always stood out as what I call best picture quality. And that's what I've been excited to find this year. As we pointed out, it's just like, great. We really have some good ones this year.
Yeah, that's my favorite screenplay of the year. I've got a couple more, and it's very much him going back to his roots. I actually just did a show last night with Kat on this movie. It's very much a play. It plays out like a play. And you can feel it. You can feel the stage play vibe to it, and I love it. And I think that name will pop up more. The Daniels for Everything Everywhere All at Once, just for the sheer insanity and pulling it off. Like, just when you thought they couldn't make something weirder than a farting Daniel Radcliffe corpse, they make this movie, and it's so interesting, and it's got so much brilliant foreshadowing in it and things that come back into play later, and every frame is full of something. I mean, I know that's direction as well, but it all stems back to the screenplay. And how well every character's fleshed out, and all the multiple characters of the characters are fleshed out to some degree.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of the standouts of the year as well, from a screenplay standpoint. I don't even know how those guys sat down and made sense of that on paper. I mean, to make it make sense on screen, but to make it make sense on paper is just a whole nother task. It had to be one of those boards with
to keep everything fucking straight.
Charlie or whatever, all the lines going all across all the boards is just insane.
You're right. Yeah, I can see that. Like the sewing string, just like thumbtacks everywhere. Because like, wait.
How does this affect that? Oh my God, we have to think of all of that.
Yeah, something the writers for Doctor Strange did not do.
No, they didn't care.
Another one of mine. This is probably on the lesser degree, but I really love the screenplay. I don't know if you got a chance to see a movie called Vengeance, and it was written and directed by B.J. Novak from The Office. Plays Ryan on The Office, and it's really, really, really smart screenplay. Really funny, dark humor.
The ex-girlfriend that's not really an ex-girlfriend, but he kind of feels guilty.
It's so funny. Yeah, it's
like,
so
that
funny.
Sounds kind of interesting.
Dude, and I know you like him a lot too. Boyd Holbrook, the actor.
Yeah.
who they were always kind of trying to push as like an action guy or something. He's so fucking funny in this movie. Like he gets to just play like this shit kicker cowboy. He's hilarious. I did not expect that from him, but he gets some of the best dialogue too. So,
Much funnier than he is in The Predator.
do you have any others?
Nope. That would be Nope. The movie
Yes.
Nope. Yes, that is my next screenplay. Or the only other screenplay I really want to bring up. I was just blown away by, I wasn't the biggest fan of Jordan Peele. I thought he was overrated with Get Out. I liked it. I saw some of the creativity. I didn't see genius. I saw creativity. What was the second one?
Us.
Was a
Hated that.
mess. I was like, this is what this guy's capable of. This is his kind of movie. Jordan Peele, whatever. Nope, blew my mind in terms of the screenplay, because that's what we're discussing here. There's a lot of other aspects, but the screenplay as well, just I find it to be such a fascinating film. I think every line of dialogue is building this story in ways that you don't really understand until you fully get through it. And it's one of those movies that on repeat viewings, it comes to life in so many different ways. And it's not all just what the story that's being told on screen is. It transcends that. It's got a lot of different metaphors and allegories for things that I just find really fascinating. And it's all there in the screenplay. I mean, a lot of it is also, as you said, with the Daniels, like a lot of the direction plays into a lot of that symbolism that you get from the movie, but I think a lot of it probably started on the page as well. And so I was really, really impressed with Nope.
Yeah, that's another great one where you're like, how did he conceive of this? Like this idea is so there's so many different interesting aspects to the story alone, you know. And then again, we'll get into how you put that stuff to screen. Like writing it is just as hard to try to make sense of it all, you know. So good, some good scripts for sure this year. Our favorite in theater experience. Again, doesn't have to be like your favorite movie. Just something. I mean, obviously, we know where we're going with this because there's one movie in particular that's only going to be good in the theater, you know. But then there's other ones too, you know.
Well, so I'm very interested to hear what you have to say, because I'm going to start off real quick just by saying my favorite in theater experience this year was getting a chance to see movies with my friends.
Yeah,
Because I feel like it's been like 2 years. I know you and I have still caught movies, and some of our friends have been able to come out and see movies during the pandemic. But this was a year where more people felt comfortable to do it. We got a chance to see a number of movies with our core group of friends that does like to go to the movies, and then even see a couple movies with friends that never come out to see the movies and finally came out and saw a movie with us. So I was just really happy to have those opportunities. I'll let you go next and talk about your favorite, but two of my two actual cinema going experiences that I want to point out were because I got to go see movies with friends.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, and I'm gonna just say it because my favorite was also it was the same exact thing. It was Avatar: The Way of Water because we got to see it with Brian and Mason and Tony and so many Jay, so many friends. Like it's such a rare thing. I don't even remember. I mean, the last Avatar, I remember there was a ton of us, but it reminded me that we used to have really big groups of people to go see movies with. And sometimes you know you can make it. We can get 3 or 4 of us together, or maybe just you or I. But Avatar. I mean, also because I really liked it. I was really entertained by it, especially the last 45 minutes. But having all of you guys there, getting a big circle together and talking about it afterwards, and also really liking the movie and seeing how some people in our group didn't like it as much, and I was like, that's fine. I get it, you know. But yeah.
So I'm right there with you that as you were pointing out, that was the film where we finally got a group of people that don't always come out to the theater, friends we haven't had a chance to see in a while, come together and enjoy Avatar. So that is kind of one of my favorite experiences, getting to see all those friends. But the actual watching of that movie with our friends, I had Jay snoring next to me. I had Brian and his son on their phones in front of me with their screens glaring up at me. To be honest, my friends ruined the viewing experience a bit of Avatar. But what I will say, my favorite viewing experience or theater experience this year for a new film, because I got two. One of them's a new film. I'm going to go with Nope in IMAX, where you and I got to go watch it together.
That's on mine too. Yeah. So I'll let
that was my second viewing. So I was able to take the movie in with all the knowledge and really just see it all come to life. But then also get it in amazing IMAX. I mean, that sold me on wanting to see every movie that I can moving forward in IMAX, in real IMAX.
That was a huge screen. Top Gun Maverick is the only movie I loved so much in the theater. I saw 3 fucking times in the theater. I don't do that anymore. You know, I don't even remember the last time I did. Like The Matrix, I saw like 5 times in the theater or whatever. But Top Gun Maverick, I went with a different group each time. The first time I saw it was with some Navy buddies, which was cool, and Mark B from Cinema Gulp. And then I saw it with, I think, Josh, and then I saw part of it with you, but
Yeah, we watched half of it.
God, I think I've seen it 3.5 times. That's right. Yeah, it's what you call an old fashioned crowd pleaser, and it gives you those goosebumps. And it just turned out so much fucking better than anybody thought it was going to be.
So my other one was a chance for us to go see a 3D movie of a classic movie. And you'd think I might be saying Jaws, but actually I think the one that was even more entertaining and fun, because I had no clue how fun the movie really was, Dawn of the Dead. Yeah. I had just forgotten how much fun that movie is, how funny it can be. And just the social commentary is still alive and well today with that movie. So
yes, it is.
And then just seeing it in that new dimension, 3D, you know, it was awesome.
That was at like fun. Midnight or something, like the night before Halloween or midnight. Or whatever. Yeah. It was really cool to do that. Yeah.
So that's a
good pick. Funniest movies of the year. I really only have one, because when I say funniest, I'm just picking the one that made me laugh the hardest, and I won't beat around the bush. It's Jackass Forever. Came out pretty much at the beginning of the year. You could say it's not a movie if you want, but it is. It's a movie. You know, it came out in the theater, so and it did really well. Those guys haven't missed a beat. I was more scared for them this time than I ever have been, because they're all 50 years old now, and like when they get hurt, they get fucked in this one. Yeah. You know, like you could tell that they actually had to like stop the movie production for months and months and months to get the people back who had just shattered bones at certain points. So that movie made me laugh so hard. And that was another fun theater going experience where we all went and had beers first at a bar, and then we went to the movie. So we were perfectly buzzed to see a movie like that. And it made me feel like my early 20s again, because it was Jackass, you know. So
nice. Yeah, I had forgotten about Jackass. I think, you know, because it's not really a narrative film, you kind of lose track of it being like part of the year's films. But that is a funny one for sure. I did not get a chance to see really hardly anything that would be classified as a true comedy this year.
There wasn't much this year at all.
I think the funniest movie of the year for me might be the screenplay for Avatar 2. Possibly. Hey bro, yo bro. Oh my god, the dialogue is the stupidest thing I've ever heard from my favorite filmmaker. Oh my god. I did catch in the last few weeks Puss in Boots, The Last Wish. Puss in Boots was funny. I mean, I was laughing my ass off at that movie. It's
funny character.
Yeah, they do a lot of really creative stuff with fairy tales. They've always done that with the Shrek series, but I feel like this probably is the best of all the Shrek movies. I think it was better than any of the actual Shrek movies.
Oh wow!
It was super entertaining.
That's high praise. I think the first 2 Shrek movies are fucking great. So that's really cool.
Yeah, but it had a lot of comedy, you know, and it's got a pretty good cast, you know, the typical Antonio Banderas and Salma Hayek show back up, but then like Florence Pugh is in there as Goldilocks and the 3 bears, which
does it have that adultish humor, like kind of how the Shrek stuff did, or is it
a little bit, and it's actually pretty serious in terms of like the storyline is, you know, Puss has lost lost 8 of his 9 lives. It's not his last life, so and death is after him. And the character they create for Death is seriously frightening and menacing. I don't know how kids can get through that movie, because it's seriously like when that Death character shows up, he fucking scares the hell out of adults.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and the animation looks great, and they do creative stuff with all of the fairy tale stuff that they come up with, and they don't retread. I mean, this is the 6th official Shrek movie with the 4 Shreks and the 2 Puss in Boots. They're not retreading like, oh, here's the same kind of tired fairy tale ripoff that you've seen before. They do good stuff. So,
but yeah, those are good picks. Again, comedies sucked this year. Jackass never left my mind when it came to what made me laugh, because there wasn't shit else that was funny. Favorite performances of the year, and I'll let you lead, sir.
All right. Well, let me start off with one that it's like with one actor that it's hard to even say where do you go with his performances. He did so many that stood out. Colin Farrell.
Yeah, yeah.
Colin Farrell, Banshees. I'm honestly hoping he can win the Oscar for Best Actor. I haven't seen like Brendan Fraser's performance that's kind of getting a lot of talk, and he's put in enough work over the years. This is the kind of guy that I want to see finally get rewarded with an Oscar. But he also did the Penguin in the Batman, which to me was the standout performance of
Yep.
that movie. I liked a lot of the performances in that movie, but his was the standout for me, and kind of the reason to even revisit that movie to some degree.
Yeah.
And then he had another film, 13 Lives. I'm not sure if you caught that one.
I
With,
didn't get a chance, but I heard of it. Yeah, yeah.
Ron Howard film, and he's just this, calm, cool, and collected in the face of chaos kind of character. Which he can do both. He can do wild, manic, and subdued. But it's a pretty subdued performance, but it fits the tone of the movie really well. And this very serious situation that these people. I don't know if you know much about it, but it's like divers trying to save these 13 kids from a underwater cave.
It's on
So just
fire.
a year full of rave performances, but at least two or three of them that I really remembered and stuck with me. So Colin Farrell's my number one pick on that list, but I've got, or my first one. I don't know which one I would say is my favorite of the ones, but I've got a few to mention.
I definitely, not that I care, but I want him to win everything for Banshees because I thought he's just so fucking great. Just that whole trio back together. You sold me. I didn't even fucking care what the story was. Like Martin McDonagh, Brandon Gleeson, and Colin Farrell. I'm there,
Yep.
But I gotta go. I think my favorite performer of the year was Mia Goth. Fucking just a rock star. Like she plays like a 95-year-old woman and a young actress in X, playing off herself through tons of the movie. And then what I think was like definitely an Oscar type of performance in Pearl, which obviously she didn't get because it's just not the kind of movie they can't have anything like that. But just within a year, all that performance, and then the fact that we're gonna get a Maxine movie at some point. I just, to me, she just was the best. She was the best this year. Like, what else to say? She was fucking great.
Well, Ben, you just mentioned my number two. I mean, again, I'm not really ordering these 1, 2, 3 in an order, but that is another one I wanted to point out. Mia Goth. Like you said, all three of those performances, 2 movies, but 3 performances, all different, all excellent. Her performance in Pearl, how great that is. I mean, it's great all throughout, but there's those couple scenes, that one long monologue, and then
7-minute monologue.
And that ending of her just staring and trying to keep the smile and stuff. Like, yeah, someone might say, hey, that's not even part of the film or whatever, so why give her credit in an Oscar sense? But dude, it deserves it.
If they wanted to campaign for her, all you need to show is that. I mean, you don't even have to show the whole 7-minute monologue, but just the way the camera moves on her. It was fucking. I mean, it was the best. That was the best acting all year. I mean, and she's not even someone that I'd ever really thought about before.
Yeah,
I always thought she was like pretty, and she's like done weird.
She does. She picks weird.
She picks weird movies. It's not my favorite performance of the year, but I think it's the performance of Michelle Williams' life in this movie. I've never seen her go that way before. Like she's always been really solid, but I never got the whole. She's so great all the time. A lot of the times I feel that she's not as great as people say. This is the one where I thought, and I'm talking about The Fabelmans, essentially playing Steven Spielberg's mom who is mentally troubled, and I just thought she was brilliant. I fucking thought she was so good. She goes so many places, and she steals it. It's kind of her movie until sort of the last act where it really goes into the high school years, but.
Yeah.
So that's another one of mine. I just thought that.
Yeah, I thought she was really impressive too. I'm glad I finally got to check that out before we did the video. So my last one is actually a group of people because they really all stand out. So it's hard just to say that one. Well, let me start with the one that I think is truly the most deserving and somewhat being overlooked. We're talking Everywhere, Everything, All at Once. I don't even know if I have her name right. Stephanie Sue or who, the daughter.
Oh yeah, the
Steph.
daughter. Yeah, yeah.
I should look it up. I think it's who or Sue or I don't know. I should confirm her name before I'm out here giving her accolades. But God, she was so fucking good, and everyone's talking about Jamie Lee Curtis. Like she deserves an Oscar nomination in that movie. I mean,
She was
she's
good too, though. Yeah,
She's
yeah,
good too, but like, my God, the performance given by Joy, by the daughter, is the standout of the movie. Even more so, I think, than the lead. What's her name?
Michelle Yeoh.
Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah, even
But
Kehu Kwan is really good too. I mean, they're
well,
all
so I
good.
think Michelle Yeoh and I should learn all these freaking names. What is his name? K
Kehu Kwan.
Kehu Kwan,
Yeah.
and even James Hong. Every single one of them fucking nailed it. Was so awesome in that movie. But I think the daughter was the number one standout. But I want to see Kehu Kwan. I want to see Short Round get a fucking Oscar. I mean, I thought him getting a nomination would be really cool. Now it seems like he may be the front runner to actually win the damn thing.
Fuck yeah!
So
that's
I'm on board that train.
That's way too good of a story for the Oscar to pass for the Oscars to pass up. The fucking kid actor that was in two things disappeared and then came back the same year that Spielberg, the guy who discovered him, is making the round. Yeah. It's fucking, it's happening, dude.
I'm now on board with Spielberg and him winning Oscars. I don't care what my favorites are. That's what I want to see happen from a story.
The coolest thing too is that Kehu Kwan is his entertainment lawyer is none other than the actor that played Chunk, who went into entertainment law after.
He's got to be at the Oscars too. They got to do like a Goonies reunion.
He has to thank him. When he's up there doing that speech, he has to thank Chunk and do the truffle shuffle. He fucking has to. So we're gonna move on to our honorable mentions, John. And I've got a bunch. I mean, we can quickly go through them. If there's one or two that you really want to emphasize, I'm more than welcome to. I'll start off with some stuff earlier in the year. Kind of on the low end of stuff, but stuff I feel worth mentioning, like Scott Derrickson's The Black Phone. I noticed that most of my honorable mentions are mostly because of some of the performances in them, where again, Ethan Hawke just kicking ass, being super fucking creepy and almost kind of funny in The Black Phone. Interesting concept. Doesn't quite come together as much as I'd like it to, but I did find it a nice, suspenseful, small horror movie. So I think of it as I'm so glad that he told Marvel to go fuck off because he didn't want to make Multiverse of Madness or whatever. And he went back to horror. And I was like, while watching The Black Phone, I was like, I'm so glad he did this instead of that, So.
I'll just group a couple things together that I thought were entertaining. Like kind of at the top end of my honorable mentions list as just fun, violent, entertaining times at the theater, Violent Night, and Bullet Train. Just just leave your brain at the door kind of cinema. And it was still hard for me to leave my brain at the door. I was kind of groaning through a lot of these movies, but I still had fun with them. Especially I'd say with Violent Night, like it wasn't so much like I remember kind of groaning through a good chunk of the movie, but I also liked the way that they worked in some of the holiday into the movie, like with all the bad guys having their Christmas names and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And just the way that the Santa character was portrayed, like I fully expected him to have powers and easily be able to handle the situation, but the fact that he had powers but not, he wasn't extra strong. He was still a normal human being and getting his ass kicked half the time and having to run from these people and not able to, he had to outsmart them, which is always a great thing to see from an action standpoint, not just use brute strength, but outsmart people. And then just his backstory, how like serious and real, like when you realize who he was and where he came from, this Viking past of his, that element of the movie worked really well. Some of the campy, stupid stuff and over the top action and humor in it didn't fully hit for me, but I found it a pretty entertaining movie. Bullet Train as well, but Violent Night, I that one kind of stuck with me a little bit more.
Well, I saw Violent Night twice. I loved it. I mean, and it is a total Christmas movie. It's not trying to be something set on Christmas. It's a Christmas movie. And I love how you mentioned, like, he's kind of just a normal dude. You're wondering, like, are some powers going to show up? And I love the ongoing joke as he goes, I don't know how any of this works. I have a Soderbergh movie on here called Kimmy, which I saw earlier in the year. I mean, so it's got that really good old school Soderbergh pacing to it and editing, but it was really because of Zoe Kravitz's performance. Really interesting movie. It's grounded in the pandemic. Everyone's working from home. Everyone has masks on. It's this interesting little caper, something very, very real that probably happens a lot these days, and how something as big of a company as global company as, if something happened that could link to some kind of a murder or a crime, how far go to erase everyone involved with that, you know? So it's not specifically, but it's, you know, it's kind of is. Interesting movie. I really liked Kimmy.
All right, well, I'll throw in a couple right here that don't fly by because they're pretty freaking long movies, but they're filled with excitement, action, and adventure. They're good times at the cinema. They're a few of the movies that brought the best special effects of the year to the screen and things like that, and just really brought us the big epic films that we all love to go to the movies to see. But they didn't make my top five. Three films right here. The Woman King is one of them. Avatar 2 is another one, and Black Panther 2. All three of those were fun and entertaining, but they weren't up to the level that I call best picture quality for my picks. And that's hard to say when it comes to Avatar 2. I expect Avatar 2 to rise to the very top of my list. Anyone who watches this show with regularity knows James Cameron's my favorite filmmaker, and even though I'm not the biggest fan of the first Avatar, I still just expected to get what James Cameron brings to the cinema, and I felt like he dropped the ball. That's my take on it. But I want to hear, you know, when we get around to talking about Avatar on your side of things, we can talk more about it. But
no, we could talk about it right now, because we could talk about it right now because it's just an honorable mention of mine.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed my time in the theater, but just like the first Avatar, at the end of the day, I don't really care. You know, I mean, I enjoyed this one more than the first one, but yeah, it's just. It's fine. It's great. You know, it's fucking simple to like. There's nothing about it that's complex.
I just, it was a strange feeling to walk out of a James Cameron movie and feel like I watched a movie that any normal filmmaker would make, that it was just another run-of-the-mill Hollywood film. Yeah. And within 24 hours, I had no thoughts. Within 2 hours, you know, as soon as our conversation at the theater ended and we left, other than being disappointed, I was not thinking about the movie in any positive light.
Yeah.
That's kind of hard pill for me to swallow, but it's reality.
Yeah, totally. That's why, I mean, and you know, made honorable mentions. It's not like, I mean, you know, we're not talking bad on it aside from your funny screenplay.
Oh, I could.
Yeah.
I went and watched it a second time. Ben, have you had a chance to see it a second time?
No.
God, that's why I was like, oh my God, this dialogue. I can barely sit through this movie a second time.
Well, speaking of movies that are way too fucking long, and that's what landed this one on honorable mentions, and it's The Batman. And I'm really sorry to say that because it was so fucking good for a while, and then it wasn't, you know? And it's like that last half fucking hour, man, I watched it again and I really enjoy the movie, and it had potential to be the best Batman movie in so many ways. I mean, he's fucking Batman the whole fucking movie pretty much, you know, which is awesome, you know, because the Bruce Wayne character sucks in this movie. But yeah, it's too long. It's too long, and it didn't need to go where it went. But again, I love so much of it. It's on honorable mentions where, God, I really wish I could have put it in the top 5, but
The Menu and The Fabelmans, very different movies. I don't even know why I'm lumping those two together, just because they're not in the same group as like Black Panther, Avatar, and Woman King, where they're like adventure and action. The Menu left a bad taste in my mouth, if you'll accept the pun. I didn't really like the ending.
Very nonsensical ending. Yeah.
I loved the nonsensical ending, like the s'mores. I loved the look of the s'mores, but I just didn't buy into like anybody sitting through this, and not like the reactions of people throughout the movie and the choices being made. But it was a fun movie, and it was funny. You know, it's definitely one of the ones that I would say from a screenplay or if we were talking comedy or funny, it certainly could have been on that list. But It did leave
Maybe
a bit
the
of a bad taste in my mouth. So
maybe
I,
the best looking movie hamburger ever. That looks so good.
but the Fablemans, I want to see again because I honestly think it could possibly even make it into my top five if I really saw it again and kind of just fell in love with it more. I want to say it would maybe be my number six, um, but I feel pretty strong about the five I have above it. But yeah, it was a surprising movie because I really thought it was going to be kind of boring, uninteresting biopic, and it went in so many directions I never expected, and I still don't quite know if this is like really what happened to Steven Spielberg and his upbringing exactly the way, obviously not exactly the way it plays in the movie, but even some of the very serious things that do happen that kind of break up his family, like if it played out even half the way that we see it in the movie, like that kind of interested me a lot more than I expected. I just thought it was going to be about him finding inspiration and passion for wanting to be a filmmaker, but there's so much more about the actual family drama going on in that story that really drew me in. And then you just got a great filmmaker, putting on a wonderful display, making a great movie, and great performances all throughout. So it's got all the aspects you want from a great best picture film, but it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that some of the films that I put higher do bring to the table.
Yeah. Yeah, I have the Fablemans on an honorable mention as well, and a lot of it has to do with who I picked to be one of my favorite performances. I think so much of the uh, interesting aspects of the movie are Michelle Williams as the mom and wondering where she's going as a character and
Very true. Yeah.
how unhinged is she gonna get, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I really enjoyed it too, and it's interesting that 10 years ago when Spielberg won like the Cecil B. Demure, whatever the fuck that thing's called, the speech he gave was wanting to be a filmmaker by that train set that opens the movie, of how he built the train set and shot from different angles to make that train crash. So he told that story 10 years ago. So that clearly happened, So
Okay. Yeah.
Emily the Criminal and Watcher, two female-led movies. Both of the movies I like because of the leads. Mika Monroe in Watcher, and Aubrey Plaza in Emily the Criminal. Two very different movies. One's more of a thriller horror, and one of them is just kind of a pretty hardcore dramatic thriller. Both really good movies. If you get a chance, there's on the smaller end. Both really, really good, intense, small films to be on the lookout for. And I think you can watch both of them on streaming at this point. So
These two films make up my what I would call the best franchise of the year award because holy shit, who knew we were going to get a brand new iconic horror franchise all put out in 1 year, and we're talking about X and Pearl.
Yep.
My God, I'm just so surprised. Like, I think you guys talked me into going to X. It wasn't on my radar for
It
whatever
was
reason.
my most anticipated of the year when I saw the trailer. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. When it ends and tells you that you've got Pearl coming within the same year, we were just so excited for that. I'm waiting to buy the first two movies so I can buy them all three as a box set. So I don't even
Yeah.
own the first two, but I love them and want to. I haven't really revisited Pearl yet. I need to. X I've seen twice, and I still think it probably will always remain my favorite over Pearl to some degree. But I love all the really cool quirkiness of Pearl and the performances in Pearl. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Those two movies, they could easily, if you put them together, or if we had Maxine already, shit, I'd put them as like one cinematic epic and call that my best picture possibly. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I hate doing this. I wish I could just cheat and have these two movies count as one, but I had to choose. So I have an honorable mention, which is going to give away something later. But X is an honorable mention. It's as a horror movie, it was my favorite horror movie of the year. I consider Pearl something different. Pearl's a different genre. I mean, it's a horror, but it's not. You know what I mean? X is
going for that hardcore slasher vibe, whereas
Yeah.
Pearl's more of a drama and a fantasy, like a dark fantasy.
Yeah, X. If we were doing, yeah, I mean, obviously at this point, if we were doing top 10, it would be in there. And then I have the Northman. Hard decision on that one. There's storytelling elements that kind of kept it from being in the top five as a film, as like a piece of art, cinematic art. It might be the fucking best, like it's just incredible to look at. I think it leaves a little to be desired towards the end where I'm like, why did you do that? Why did you do that? You didn't have to do that. Why did you do that? You know, but that's what it is. That's what it was trying to tell. And then lastly, this was really, really, really fucking heartbreaking, but Nope is right there. Nope is basically number 6. You know,
Okay.
I love it for all the same reasons you do. And us being able to do that big, lengthy review about it with Kat made me just appreciate the movie so much more, because you had seen it twice. So you expanded my mind a little bit more on what was going on. So I think that helped my viewing experience of it. I love Nope. It's eons better than his other films. I mean, as just somewhat, you could tell how much he loves movies by that movie, you know, like how much he cares about the fundamentals of movie making. And that stuff's even more exciting than how great the fucking monster is, you know? So yeah, so that concludes my honorable mentions with Nope. It's right fucking there. Yeah, it's right there.
Top 5, baby. Yeah.
Let's start from the top. Top Gun, that is. Number 5. My number 5 pick. I don't have the beautiful images in the background to show you. I'm just going to show you the DVD right there. Yeah, it made the list. It beat out things like Avatar, you know, for me, which was a surprise. It's just fucking entertaining. It's just fucking great time. To be honest, like you were saying, Avatar, that last 45 minutes drew you in and had you so excited. I couldn't even remember what happened that last 45 minutes. It just wasn't hitting on the cylinders that I think James Cameron should hit. It just wasn't visceral the way his stuff is. Top Gun was. Top Gun keeps building. The movie keeps getting more and more exciting, and that final act is just mind-blowing exciting. But when you see, well, I don't want to give anything away, but the aerial mission essentially is almost done, and you've got people grounded. I was like, holy shit, there's this whole other element going on here where it's like, oh my God, I did not expect we were going to have all this kind of action going on too. So I just found it super exciting. The filmmaking aspects, doing all that real aerial photography. The reason I put it in number 5 was I find all of the young pilots kind of cheesy. There's some aspects of their story that doesn't work for me, but I love Tom Cruise. I love the small amount of interactions that he gets with Val Kilmer, and the one scene with Val Kilmer is actually very touching. So it worked. The movie worked to be Best Picture. I worried when I first saw it. I was like, I don't know if it's really going to live up to that, but by the end of the year, it rose to the top.
Coming in at number 5 for me, left a bad taste in your mouth, made me really want a cheeseburger. I love the menu. I love that it's fucking nuts, and like you don't know where it's going until someone literally has to put a gun in their mouth and blow their head off, and then you're like, oh, okay, it's real. This is really happening, this movie. I agree with you. The ending, why would anyone just let that happen? But I think it's supposed to be speaking about those people, and you know, because the movie, so it's not even really a metaphor. It's right in your face that it's talking about you know, the way media can shift people's perceptions on things and ruin people's lives. And
criticism. It's
criticism
on criticism.
Yeah, and take away people's livelihood, take away their fucking businesses. By the way, Anya Taylor-Joy, fucking awesome. She's so good. I mean, yeah, she's gorgeous, but she's just so good. She's so confident as an actress, and for how young she is, it's really crazy. She goes toe to toe with fucking Ralph Fiennes in this movie, and some pretty great moments. He was right there for being one of my favorite performances of the year, because he's menacing, but just like you kind of are on his side, sort of, like at least through some of it. You know?
What about his Mater D?
Oh my God, she's so good, and I love that actress too.
Tortillas. They are tortillas.
What the hell are these?
These are tortillas.
Yeah, they're tortillas.
Tortillas.
She's also in The Whale, so, and I guess she's gotten a lot of
She
buzz.
was in Downsizing.
She was the best part of Downside.
Oh, I still remember. I gave her a nomination on my list. I thought she was excellent.
It worked for me, man. I was having so much fun in the theater, just trying to figure out where it was going to go.
I remember seeing that trailer, like, even though I try not to watch trailers, I caught that one months and months before. So I kind of had a long buildup of like, when is this movie finally going to come out? Because it's so intriguing. I just needed to know, well, what is this really all going to be about?
Well, remember when we all walked past the poster, we thought it was just going to be another a chef movie, like, because it just looks like people in the kitchen, and it's called The Menu. So you're like, oh, it's just going to be another like drama comedy about people working in an insane kitchen. And it's so not that when you when you see, yeah, it's kind of like there's nothing really like it.
All right, my number 4. It's got a little bit of everything, a little bit of everywhere, a little bit of all at once. And that's what I love about this movie. It has everything. Like, oh my God, this just has
The title spells out the fucking movie. Yeah.
well, and then when you see that that's actually kind of the stages that you're watching the movie in, like I didn't realize that was going to happen as well. Man, there's too much though. I love the everywhere, or the everything. It's beautiful. I love the everywhere. It's very cool, but the all at once is confusing. It is a hard movie to make sense of. I've only seen it twice now. I actually watched it yesterday for my second viewing, but I knew, from that first initial viewing, this is something special. It's gonna be in my top 5. It's just where does it fall in there? And I was able to rewatch it again yesterday and confirm that. Yeah, just so unique. I mean, I remember getting to see Swiss Army Man. I think it was one of my few early solo reviews that we did on the channel here. And I felt compelled. I was like, I know Ben didn't get a chance to see it, but one of us has to talk about this movie because it's so unique and creative. We just got to get the word out there about it. And so I had no idea when this movie came around, Everything Everywhere, that we were getting the follow-up feature by those really, really unique creative filmmakers. And once you see it, you're like, oh yes, I get it. Those are the same guys. And they somehow make the most strange ideas come together. You're still a little bit confused. I think in both movies, there's still like a scratching your head aspect to it. But what they are able to make sense of in such a strange, chaotic way, it baffles my mind. I mean, there's no other filmmakers out there right now working that do something so strange that I still kind of enjoy and connect with. A lot of times strange just turns me off. If it's a David Lynch style or whatever, I just can't make sense of it. This isn't so far gone. They give you enough to make sense of it, but it's just a wonderful movie. We already talked about the performances as being some of my favorite standouts of the year, the screenplay as well, but the editing and the shooting styles and just the filmmaking, every aspect of the filmmaking and how they brought it all together when this is really everywhere all at once on screen. I mean, what you are seeing is kind of everything happening all at once, and it works. I don't know.
Excellent pick. My number 4 is Pearl. There's lots of stuff this year that kind of feels like filmmakers care again about their craft, and it has. There's a lot of style in Pearl, but there's a lot of substance in Pearl, and because it is a character piece, the whole movie hinges on one person, Mia Goth. That's if she doesn't work, it doesn't work because. Reading the script, I don't think there's ever a moment where she's not on screen. So when you're reading the script and you're like, okay, I'm not just the lead, like this whole movie is following every move I make, and the way us as viewers watch it, and we don't know things about her, and the way we find things out, like when you get the big epiphany that the mother knows she knows she's crazy, but she's just been living with it and masking it for so long. Then you're like, okay, now I get it. Like Pearl is fucking nuts. She's been nuts, but we as the audience had to like watch that unfold. She didn't get nuts, and she wasn't normal and then got nuts. She was nuts the whole time.
Come on, let's get nuts.
I don't know. I just think Ty West just outdid himself this year as someone I didn't really care that much about, and I wasn't really following his career at all. And now that is completely changed because he didn't just show like he could produce 2 movies in 1 year that are connected. There's so much craft in Pearl. X as well. X was shot more Texas Chainsaw Massacre crazy. Pearl is shot like a fucking Hitchcock movie, basically, with a female lead. And again, Mia Goth, a 7-minute zoom in shot was just perfection. Everything about it, like how her emotions grow and grow and grow. And that scene is so intense because the woman who got the part is sitting, that's who she's talking at. She's not talking to, she's talking at. I think Pearl's just, it's just great. I mean, fuck. In a different year, it could have been number 1. That's how strongly I feel about it. It's just, again, the craftsmanship of it. I mean, I love the decision making. I love the freeze frame with the crocodile and just the goofy text. I love it. It's all so interesting. And the soundtrack. The soundtrack is definitely like Hitchcock, old fashioned. So yeah, Pearl number 4.
I want the trilogy so I can really make up my mind about all of them.
Oh God, dude, stick to landing, man. Stick
Yes.
to fucking landing.
Oh, please do. I don't have number 3 as a DVD. I should, because it is available to buy, but it's also been available on HBO Max for a bit, and so I've just been watching it there if I needed to. Banshees of Inisherin. Shira, shit, whatever. I don't know how to pronounce names.
Just think
on this
Ed
episode.
Sheeran. Just think Ed Sheeran.
Banshees of Ed Sheeran. Yeah, I mean, we already talked about this as one of the best screenplays, but also one of the best performances, and not just Colin Farrell. I think, Brendan Gleeson is always excellent. I hope he gets an Oscar nomination, because Jesus, this guy doesn't have an Oscar nomination up to this point in his career. Give me a fucking break. Who's overlooked that? The sister was good too. I don't really remember her name. I'm not the biggest fan of Barry Conan or whatever, the little drunk kid. I found him very annoying when he comes around. He was a weird character who seemed to know more than he should. Like, he was a total retard sometimes, but then he would end his conversation with some insight that's like, how are you even tracking what's happening around you right now? But you seem to know more than other characters. So he was kind of a weird character, but it's a fascinating movie. It's a great story. It's another one somewhat like The Menu, where I'm left like at the end, like, am I satisfied by that ending where these two characters are left with this situation? But that's what we get. So, and that's like, I think with The Menu, there was a lot more I had issue along the way, whereas Banshees is just the way it ends that I'm like, oh, I'm slightly unsatisfied, but I love everything else leading up to it. My God, the cinematography, that's one of the standouts for me too. Like, I think probably all of McDonagh's films look great if I really go back and just kind of look at the cinematography. But this one, that island they're shooting on, and just the landscapes, the daylight, nighttime, just all these different settings that they're able to shoot in, and it always looks so beautiful. So yeah, just a really great film, just a solid movie. Brought some of the best dialogue and humor of the year, some of the most interesting characters. So yeah, Banshees is my number 3.
Well, I can get through my number 3 real quick, because it is also Banshees of Inisherin. Banshees of Ed Sheeran, my bad. I did 30 minutes on it the other day with Kat. We have a review out if people want to get all my thoughts on it. But I echo everything John said, except I love the Barry Keoghan guy in this. I think he's fucking hilarious. And he's very tragic, very sad character. Carrie Condon is the sister. She was great. She's a well-written character. Yeah, cinematography was fucking so great. And it's not just because of the location. It's all the selective shots used, and even some of the inside stuff. And the scene steal of the movie, little sweet Jenny, R.I.P. sweet Jenny. She literally, it was the one time this year in the movie theater that I cried, was at the Jenny death. It's animals, John. Kill all the humans you want in movies, but animals, it's rough.
I hear you.
So we're coming down to the top 2, and I have no idea what John's gonna pick. None at all.
Well, wait, who goes next? I forget what order we were in.
You do, because I just did my quick little Banshees thing. So
Okay, got it. That's right.
So number 2.
Oh, number 2 for me. All right. Well, we've got the DVD case for this one. It's gonna be The Northman. This was the first movie of the year that I walked out of saying, "Oh God, Best Picture! Finally saw something." I mean, you may remember that, Ben.
Yeah, you were really passionate in that review. Yeah.
Yeah, I was excited that I had finally sat through a movie that felt Best Picture quality after like 3 years. It felt like, So I actually haven't. I've seen it a second time, but I didn't get to rewatch it anytime recently. But I just remember loving it, and that it's my kind of movie. Like, I love Braveheart and Gladiator and Apocalypto and just that style of film, and I feel like that's what you get with this movie. It's not exactly those movies. There may not be as much action as there is in some of those movies, but you get some of it in this, and it just looks great. It's filled with wonderful performances. I liked some of the kind of strange, unique stuff going on in the film. I think most of that kind of drew me into the movie a bit more as well. And it's just a really great cinematic experience. I actually saw it twice in the theater, so looking forward to checking out my DVD at some point. But yeah, this one easily could have been my number one of the year. Like if I didn't get anything I liked more, I would have been very happy to call this my best picture of the year.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I have one more that I liked even more.
It was right there for me. It was probably 7. It was right there. Great pick, man. Great movie. Great pick. I mean, that to me, like Robert Eggers always had this great talent, but I didn't really care for his other 2 films very much. And this one, I was like, okay, he's the real fucking deal, you know. Unfortunately, the movie fucking lost a lot of money for that studio. I guess it broke even because it made a lot worldwide. But here, for some reason, I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, I would have thought. I mean, I don't know what the marketing looked like because I try not to watch too much. But if they played it up to feel exciting, even though the movie isn't as action oriented as maybe a trailer could have made it feel, at least that could have drawn some people into the theater. And once they were there, they hopefully would have enjoyed it.
They played the wrong angle. What they did was they showcased Alexander Skarsgård's abs, the whole marketing campaign, because the dude's fucking jacked. And I think they were trying to use that to get a female audience that was never going to show up to this movie.
Oh, no, bad idea.
That's what they did. And I think marketing killed them for that, when they should have just shown the fucking brutality. I mean, you can only show so much, but yeah, they dropped the ball on that. I think that had a lot to do with it. But anyway, great pick. Cool movie. My number 2. It was somewhere. Oh, I think you started it at the top because it's Top Gun Maverick. It's
okay. I may have switched what I thought you were going to go with as your number 1.
The Top Gun Maverick I saw the most times out of anything in the theater this year. As I said already, it was the theater going experience that really blew me away. Man, just all the feels, man. Not caring about the news when I heard they were going to finally make a top. It's like, who fucking cares? Like everything about this movie and I hate saying this to my boy Tony Scott, like this movie just exceeds in every level. And I love it. What's his name? Joel Krasinski, the director.
Joseph Krasinski. Yeah.
Joseph Krasinski. He never, thank God, he never tries to copy Tony Scott's style. I mean, I guess there's like a beat. You can only make San Diego look so different, but he does completely different types of, I mean, obviously the action. I watched Top Gun recently, the original, and I'm like, man, this movie feels small. And it just feels small. Like the ending, there's just like no stakes to it, really. It's just a couple planes. I mean, it's great. It's still great. But this one, like you said, it starts out as this crazy Death Star mission. Then they get shot down and you're like, oh God, is it going to get hokey where they grab machine guns? And it never goes there. They're grounded for a very short period of time. And then come on, man, everybody wants, all the fans wanted the Tomcat back, so you get the Tomcat back and it's just like a shell of itself. Yeah, man. I mean, and fucking Tom Cruise is doing all that flying. He's just nuts. He's nuts. He wants to make the best movies possible, and it shows in his fucking movies, and I loved seeing Iceman. Ugh, it was so touching. It was one of those scenes where you're like, why is a scene like this in this fun, fast-paced movie? And it's one of the best scenes in the movie, though. It always bums me out to see the state of Val Kilmer, like being one of my favorites growing up, and like having so much charisma, being such a good-looking guy. It's like, yeah, Top Gun Maverick's just everything you want in a movie to come out in the summer. Everything, and it does it.
But my top one, we've already discussed a couple times on the list here, and that is Nope, which was surprising for me. I did not go into this expecting it to be my favorite. Like I said, I respected Jordan Peele from his first movie, but I lost a lot of respect in that second movie. So this was just kind of a going in and hoping for the best. And I was really just kind of mind blown at how cool and interesting it was, and how unique of a approach to an already familiar type of story we've seen done before, but done in a different way. There's aspects of it that some people see as very disconnected from the main storyline, with the Gordy storyline, that I find really, really intriguing. And not just that storyline, but all of it as a whole, how it's an allegory for filmmaking and how people are treated, how animals are treated. Just there's all these different layers to this movie that are it works on so many different levels. But I also find it just a very entertaining movie. Whereas like I'd say Everything Everywhere All at Once is another one that works on all of these different layers and is just so filled with symbolism. But the actual experience of watching that for 2 hours and 20 minutes is not, for me, is not as entertaining as Nope. Nope is still gives me what I just want in a entertaining movie from start to finish with fun characters and all the stuff without having to get sucked into the deeper side of the film. But Nope is just, it was just so entertaining. The performances, I didn't bring them up in our favorite performances of the year, partially because I just didn't want to talk too much about Nope throughout the list. But I really think Daniel Kaluuya and Kiki Palmer could have been Oscar nominated, in my opinion, if I was still running my list. I was really impressed. A lot of people said Daniel Kaluuya is too subdued. He's boring in this movie. I thought that was his character. It was working so well.
Oh, it was definitely his character. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, I really loved his character being that way. Not that I needed to recognize that's how his character is, just I actually liked his character being that way, and Kiki being an opposite to that, and the way they play off their brother and sister relationship feel very realistic and just so entertaining to watch. Then you got a lot of other side characters in the movie that are really entertaining. The guy that works at Fry's or whatever, and Michael Wincott showing up, and Stephen Yoon or whatever. So just filled with wonderful characters. Very unique movie. It's a movie I saw 3 times in the theater. So I think that's the benchmark for some of the best movies of the year, if it just keeps drawing you back to the theater for that experience.
Yeah.
I plan to watch Nope many, many times and just find it a rewarding experience every time, getting more and more out of it. So I was just really, really surprised to see how this movie grows every time I've watched it and become more fascinating.
Yeah, that's a great pick, man. That was my 6. It was right there.
One last little anecdote I want to say about my favorite movies of the last few years. So I just had a son 2 years ago, or just coming up on 2 years. The first year he was born, my favorite movie was a James Bond movie. The title isn't James Bond, but it's a James Bond movie. My son is named James. So what do I say in that first year a lot? I say, James, 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 come on, James, James. Well, now what do I say when he's almost 2? I say Nope a lot. Nope, no, don't. What are you doing? So in year 3, I'm pretty sure whatever my favorite movie for year 3, it's probably going to be.
Did you take the cookie from the cookie jar?
Okay, my number 1 of the year.
There we go.
Everything Everywhere All at Once. Yeah, total shock to me. I'd heard a few things about it going into it. I didn't see it right when it came out. I didn't even know when I saw it that it was the same guy, the Daniels, the guys that did Swiss Army Man, because that wouldn't have really got me into the theater. You like Swiss Army Man, I think, a lot more than I did. I enjoyed the creativity and the idea. We were talking about the screenplay of this movie, and how do you conceptualize a movie like this and then make it work? Everything starts with a treatment, an idea, and then writing the screenplay. And like you said, that was a great visual of like pinning everything to a fucking wall, like an investigation, trying to keep track of everything that you're doing. I bet you they did something like that. You know, that's the way this movie feels. You know, it feels like that. From the very opening frame of seeing that dining room, living room, clutter fuck mess that the movie opens with, there's so much in that shot that goes back all the way to the end. I mean, that's what this whole movie's about. I could sit here and say that over and over again, that there's foreshadowing, there's symbolism that rises and means one thing at a certain point and means something different later on. All that stuff is great, and I love all that stuff because, again, this year is a good year for people that care about filmmaking and the craft of it and telling a great story, not at the expense of anything else. This movie is This movie cost, I want to say $30 million fucking dollars to make. And you could easily say that this movie cost $100 million. I'm not even, I mean, just maybe 60, let's say, right? It looks fantastic. And the first time I saw it with Josh in the theater, and the way the camera moves around and all of this, you can tell so much of the illusion of this movie was done in camera, so much of it. And that's what I was appreciating. I had this just massive smile on my face because I was like going, God, these guys, this isn't just some post-production nightmare. Like this is like, I think why you become a filmmaker is to make a movie like this. We've been doing Cinema Gulp since 2016. I gotta say, it's right behind Annihilation for the best movie I've seen since we started the channel.
Wow.
I say that now, that could change. That could obviously change. I kind of said that about Pig last year. Two very different movies, you know. But yeah, Michelle Yeoh, Hee Kwan.
Let's call him Short Round, man.
The actors. All of the actors are fucking great. And
how about Stephanie Hu?
What other movie can you say that there's a character who has hot dogs for fingers? And it just doesn't matter. There's hot dog fingers. And my favorite line in the movie is when she goes, "How could I be the worst one? What about that hot dog one?" Like, it's just her character's just brilliant. And the daughter has the most like vulnerable stuff. Like, she's got to kind of act with a bagel on the top of her head, you know. And then she's hitting people. She's like a 20-year-old actress, and she's hitting people with a giant wobbly dildo, you know. And there's all
looking
these things.
Badass while doing it.
Yeah, but just, I mean, aside from just all the amazing camera techniques, the amazing story, the fucking martial arts, the stunt work is so cool and creative and inventive. It just, I don't know, the movie just made me feel alive. Like, just like I was just surging like while I was watching this movie. And fuck, a movie can make you do that. Like, how does it not reach the #1? I just love it. I could talk about it forever because we never got around to doing a review for it. I just feel like it just is one of those movies that just makes you happy to be sitting in the movie theater. And it doesn't have to be a blockbuster. Doesn't have to cost a ton of money. Doesn't even have to have big name stars in it. Just has to be made by people that you could tell made exactly what they wanted to make, you know. So everything, everywhere, all at once is brilliant. I will call it a masterpiece. You don't have to, but I will.
I could call it that. I mean, it didn't make my #1, but I think it's a challenging movie. And as I pointed out, I think it'll be rewarding. Every time I watch it, it'll get better. So maybe it'll move up the list. But yeah, I would call it a masterpiece in its own right. I mean, like, there's no film like it. And it's so well done. So it is a masterpiece.
Woo! Woo! All right. That was awesome. Man, we did it. We did it. 3 years since we got to do a best of. And, you know, guys, I don't care about even talking about worst. I really don't even give a fuck. You know,
I can't remember them right now.
Yeah, there's some shitty movie. Every time there's a new Halloween movie these days, that's like worst.
Yeah, like that was pretty terrible.
Yeah, but you know, we're here to celebrate good movies, and that's what
we got. That, you know, that's, as I started the video, I was so happy we actually have a handful of movies that are worth really talking about. Not just saying, well, these came out and they were the best. No, these are, I feel my 5, you know, are best picture quality, and that's important for me. It's not quantifiable, but it's like, you just know when you've seen something that kind of reaches that level, and we hadn't for a few years, was my take on it. And so I'm just happy.
Really refreshing to not have hardly any. I think I had one comic book movie in my honorable mentions, which was the Batman. I think you had one in your honorable mentions, which was Black Panther. And aside from that, like, those movies are all dog shit now. So it's like, we can actually just start watching and talking about good movies again.
Real cinema.
Yeah. Yes. All right. Well, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. 2022 is officially wrapped up. Let's hope 2023 is just as good or even better. Keep going to the movies, guys. The last few times me and John have been in those theaters, they could use you. So, get that Regal Unlimited, man. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah. Well, as long as you use it. If you got a baby at home, you don't get to the theater enough to spend your money. But yeah, man.
Yeah.
Best pictures, baby.
Yeah. I
Good
only
year,
have
2022.
I only have the one.
Let's hope 2023 can be this good, everybody.
Woo! Nice. For Cinema Gulp, I'm Ben.
I'm John. Thanks for watching.
We drink your
Or cinema.
Whisper